So we've been getting a ton of messages from you about gut health, and honestly, it's way more interesting than just, worrying about an upset stomach.
Yeah, it really is.
This article you guys sent, The Crucial Role of Gut Health and Overall Well-Being, it kind of like opens up this whole other world inside of us, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible when you think about it. Just a few years ago, we didn't know like half of what we know now about the gut microbiome. And it really is like this hidden universe. We're discovering all these connections we didn't even know
Like
exist.
trillions,
Yeah,
right? Trillions of bacteria and viruses and fungi all coexisting in there. It's
a whole ecosystem.
like a city.
Yeah, like a microscopic city. And it really highlights how when we talk about gut health, it's not just about, oh, like you said, an upset stomach or,
Wow.
making sure everything's moving along. It's really about this balance, right?
Right.
Making sure that we're fostering this diverse community of microorganisms. That's really what gut health is all about.
It's like a defense system, too, this article talks about.
Oh, absolutely.
This carefully balanced, healthy gut microbiome is like having
A highly trained army right there in your gut.
and so it's like defending you. I love how this article talks about lactobacillus. That's like a good bacteria we hear about a lot.
Right, you find it in a lot of probiotics, yeah.
Exactly. And it's like an antibody factory.
Exactly. It's amazing. It's producing these little defenders. It's like constantly on guard, helping your body fight off infections,
And then you have bifidobacterium, which I always think of as like the border patrol,
keeping things in check, making sure everything that's supposed to stay in stays in. Yeah.
like keeping those tight junctions, I think they're called, in the gut lining.
Yeah.
So that those, those bad things that can get in and cause inflammation, they don't get into your bloodstream.
Exactly. I mean, it's really amazing when you think about it. This microscopic world is having this huge impact on our overall well-being. And speaking of impact, I mean, this really plays a role when we think about our immunity.
Well, yeah, because it's like training your immune system.
Exactly. Think of it like this. A healthy and diverse gut microbiome is like sending your immune system to the best school, giving it all the training it needs to know what's a friend and what's a foe.
Right, so it doesn't overreact.
Exactly. So things like, pollen or something that's harmless to most people, your immune system can be like, okay, we're good here, and focus on the real threats. And this can be particularly important when we think about, things like allergies or autoimmune diseases.
So instead of attacking everything.
Exactly. But of course, this balance can be disrupted, and that's when we start seeing problems, and we call that dysbiosis.
Dysbiosis, right.
Yeah.
So how do people even know? Like, what are the signs? Like, if somebody's listening to this and thinking, okay, well, does that mean my gut's out of balance? Like, how do I even know?
Yeah, it's a great question because it can be so individual. It's not always just digestive upset, although that's definitely one sign.
Yeah.
So maybe you're dealing with like persistent bloating, can't seem to get rid of it, or you're, constantly feeling either backed up or the opposite. Some people experience skin issues, believe it or not. It can manifest in really surprising ways.
So it's different for everybody.
It can be, yeah.
And then what throws it off? It's got to be our diet, right?
Well, diet is a huge one, absolutely. We are what we eat, as they say, and that includes our gut bacteria. But it's also things like our lifestyle choices, even something like taking a course of antibiotics, which of course are important in some cases, but they wipe out both good and bad bacteria.
So it's like wiping the slate clean, but not always in a good way.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not just one thing.
It's this whole constellation of factors, yeah.
This is where I always get so fascinated because, for the longest time, I had no idea that your gut and your brain were so connected.
Oh, the gut-brain connection. Yeah, it's a hot topic for a reason, right? We always thought about our brain as like this isolated command center, but turns out our gut is in constant communication with it.
It's like a highway of information.
It really is like a two-way street constantly flowing back and forth.
Well, and this article talks about 90% of serotonin is actually produced in the gut,
Isn't that wild?
the mood molecule.
Yeah, the mood molecule. And it's primarily made in our gut. I mean, that just highlights how important that link is between our gut and our mental well-being. We're not just talking about an upset stomach here. We're talking about mood regulation, even things like, anxiety, depression. This is like a whole new frontier of understanding.
So knowing all that, what are some things that people can do? I mean, it's almost like, how do we support this amazing system we have in our bodies?
Well, I think that's the exciting part. There is so much that we can do to nurture this system, this amazing microbiome.
So it's not hopeless. It's not like, oh, I've got bad genes, there's nothing I can do.
Not at all.
We can change things.
Exactly. It's not just about popping a probiotic, although those can be helpful, as part of the bigger picture. It really is about a holistic approach.
So looking at everything.
Exactly. All these factors that contribute to a thriving gut. And this article really emphasizes food as medicine.
Yeah.
I know it's almost become a cliche, right? But in this case, it's so true because what we eat,
Makes sense.
it really does. It's fuel for our gut bacteria.
Mm.
And the article goes into detail about probiotics, which we touched on, but then also prebiotics.
See, I get those two confused. Probiotics, prebiotics.
Yeah. It's easy to get them mixed up.
What's the difference?
So think of probiotics as like sending in reinforcements, right? So you're actually getting those beneficial bacteria.
Good guys.
Exactly.
Okay.
Prebiotics, on the other hand, are all about feeding the beneficial bacteria that are already there.
So you're like setting the table for them.
Exactly.
I like that.
You're creating the ideal environment for them to thrive.
Okay, so what are those foods?
So many. And they're delicious, too. We're talking about things like garlic, onions.
I love garlic.
Right. Bananas, asparagus, oats, even chicory root. These all have these prebiotic fibers that our gut microbes just love.
So it's like eating the rainbow, right? Like all those different colors.
Exactly.
You want like a variety.
Variety is key. Just like in nature, a diverse ecosystem is a healthy ecosystem. So a diverse gut microbiome is going to be a more resilient one, a more balanced one. And speaking of important dietary components, we can't forget about fiber.
Fiber.
Yes.
See, fiber gets a bad rap, but it's so important, like, to keep things moving right.
It's essential for regularity.
Yeah.
It's like the cleanup crew, making sure everything's running smoothly. But beyond that, it also feeds those good bacteria.
Okay.
So those bacteria in our gut, they can actually ferment the fiber, and that produces these short-chain fatty acids.
Short-chain fatty acids.
Okay.
Now, that sounds really scientific, so break it down for me. What do those do?
They're like gold for our gut, really.
Yeah.
They provide energy to the cells that line our gut. They help regulate our immune system. They even play a role in things like appetite control and blood sugar balance.
Wow.
Yeah, fiber is a multitasker for sure.
So it's not just like, I want to, go to the bathroom regularly. It actually impacts your, like, overall health.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the food piece. Probiotics, prebiotics, fiber. But this article goes into lifestyle stuff, too. It's not just what you eat, but how you live.
Right. It's all connected. And this is where it gets really interesting, because even things that we often consider mental, like stress, have a very real impact on our gut.
Yeah, the whole gut-brain connection. It's funny because we always talk about that. But sometimes I don't think we really connect the dots. Like, I'm thinking you get nervous, you feel those butterflies in your stomach.
Exactly.
That's your gut talking to your brain.
Exactly. That's the gut-brain axis in action. And chronic stress, especially, can really throw off that balance of bacteria in our gut.
Oh.
And then this can show up in a lot of different ways. It could be digestive discomfort, like, feeling more,
Ugh, yeah.
or it can even influence our mood or contribute to things like irritable bowel syndrome, IBS.
So finding ways to, like, de-stress and relax is not just about, feeling good mentally, but it's actually like
It's an investment in your gut health as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that meditation app you've been meaning to try, the yoga class,
All good for the gut.
those are like medicine for your gut.
Absolutely. Anything that helps us manage stress, whether it's meditation, spending time in nature, listening to music, connecting with loved ones, those can all have a positive ripple effect on our gut health. And speaking of things that are good for our gut, let's not forget sleep.
Oh, sleep.
Yeah.
Crucial.
We all know we need to do it, but I'm sure it impacts your gut too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think of sleep as like a reset button.
Right. For our whole system, our gut included. When we're sleep deprived, it throws off all those natural rhythms, and that includes the rhythms of our gut microbiome.
It's like that whole thing, like with jet lag or whatever, it's like you're throwing your whole system off.
Exactly.
Wow.
Our gut needs that restorative time, just like the rest of our body.
So it's not being lazy to get those 7-9 hours. It's like you're actually doing something good for your gut.
Exactly. It's an investment in your health.
So we've talked about a lot of good things, the nourishing things that help our gut. But then, of course, there's the flip side, right?
Right.
Like, what are the things that people should minimize or avoid The gut busters, as I like to call them.
The gut busters. I love that. Well, we talked about antibiotics earlier, how those can really disrupt the microbiome. So those are important in certain situations, obviously.
Right. Don't get us wrong, folks.
Life-saving, But it's important to use them only when absolutely necessary.
Right.
And as directed by a healthcare professional.
So not just at the first sign of a sniffle.
Exactly. Another big one. Added sugar.
Oh, yeah, sugar. It's in everything.
No, it's everywhere. But it really can wreak havoc on our gut because sugar essentially feeds the harmful bacteria, giving them, the fuel to potentially outnumber the good guys.
So that soda, those processed foods, those are like giving weapons to the bad bacteria.
They can be, fueling the troublemakers in there.
Not good.
Not good. And then, of course, smoking.
Oh, yeah. Smoking's never good.
Never good. Detrimental to our health in so many ways. And, negatively impacts our gut microbiome as well.
So we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of different aspects of gut health here. And I know for some people, this is a lot, right?
It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information, and it can feel like, oh my gosh, where do I even begin?
Yeah, right.
But I think the key here is to remember that small changes can make a big difference.
Okay. I like that. So it's not like you have to overhaul your entire life overnight.
Exactly. You don't have to become like a health guru overnight. It's about progress, not perfection, right? Take those small, manageable steps, and those will add up over time.
Give me an example. What's a small step somebody could take, today?
Absolutely. Maybe instead of having that sugary soda with lunch, you swap it out for a glass of water.
Okay, easy enough.
Right. Or maybe the next time you're at the grocery store, you pick up some fermented foods.
It really is. It's not about being perfect. It's just those little swaps and those little changes.
Exactly.
And that can make you feel, I think, empowered too, you're not just stuck.
Absolutely.
You can actually do things to make your gut healthier.
You have the power to make those changes. And it's all about, tuning into your body, noticing how those different foods make you feel, how those lifestyle choices make you feel, and making those little adjustments based on what your body's telling you.
Does this make me feel bloated? Like you were saying, being your own health detective.
Exactly. You start to notice those patterns like, oh, maybe dairy doesn't sit well with me. Or, you know what, when I get enough sleep, my digestion seems to be so much smoother. It's those little clues that your body gives you.
Yeah, it's so true. So thinking about all this, I mean, if our gut can impact us in so many ways, our mood, our immunity, all those things, what would you say, what's one thing that our listeners can do today to start nurturing that healthier microbiome?
Well, I always say knowledge is power, right? So you've listened to this deep dive. You've learned all these amazing things about your gut. Now it's time to put it into action.
Take action.
Exactly. And like we were saying, it doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming thing. Just one small step. Maybe for you, it's okay, I'm going to have some fermented foods with my next meal.
Oh, that's a good one. I love fermented foods.
Right.
Yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi.
So many options.
Yeah.
And so delicious. Or maybe, the afternoon slump hits and you're reaching for the candy bar or the sugary snack.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
Instead, maybe it's okay, I'm going to have a handful of almonds and a piece of fruit. Provides those prebiotics, some healthy fats.
Or, like you said, even just going for a 15-minute walk after lunch.
Yes.
Getting outside.
Movement is huge. Fresh air, maybe trying that meditation app you've been thinking about.
Right, yeah.
It's all connected, mind, body, gut.
So making those choices that are good for your whole self.
Exactly. And just knowing that, as you're making those choices, your gut is cheering you on every step of the way.
I love that visual. It's your gut is your own personal cheerleader. Yes, you've got this.
Exactly.
You're making good choices. I love it. I love it.
It's a partnership, really. So to everyone listening, keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep listening to that gut feeling because it's trying to tell you something.
Yes. I love that. Listen to your gut. We're going to leave it there.
Yes.
Thanks for being here for another deep dive. We'll catch you guys next time.